You look different.
I feel different.
The Incredibles animation was groundbreaking for 2004, but The Incredibles 2 was on a whole other level. When watching, did you notice the major animation differences between the two films?
Oh my God, yes.
Number 1, he got more detailed features. There are only mere seconds separating the events of the first and second Incredibles films, which means visually the character's appearance really shouldn't change. But naturally with better animation comes changes, especially with Dash. His looks change drastically between the films. If you look at the side-by-side comparison, not only does his face and clothing look more texturized, but they've also given him more noticeable freckles and a slightly changed hairstyle to become more realistic. You can even see that they altered the shape of his face. When it comes to the animation of Dash's dashing in Incredibles 2, it's undeniably more smooth and more seamless than in the first film.
Did you wash your hands with soap?
Number 2, a newly designed baby. Just like his older brother, Jack Jack has his appearance altered as well.
Are you seeing this, Robert?
We get to see a lot more of him in the second film, and from his added screen time, you can see that Jack Jack's skin looks more realistic in terms of texture and clothing. His hair, the little he has, looks thicker, is animated to move more naturally, and even has a more realistic color. One other detail we spotted was his ears. In the 2004 film, Jack Jack's ears stick out a little more than in Incredibles 2. There are also slight changes to his facial features. While overall it looks like Jack Jack, his facial features and how they move are more realistic in the 2018 film. Number 3, more than just a new headband.
You look different.
I feel different.
Moving on to Dash and Jack Jack's sister Violet. This Incredible already has a slight appearance change in the first film when she opens up and is able to truly be herself. It's symbolized by her no longer wearing her hair in front of her face. If we look at this scene in the first and second film side by side, we can notice differences right away. The first thing that sticks out is the changes in her expressions. While her face moves in a way that is still violent, you can tell how animators were able to soften these movements to make them look more human versus cartoonish. Her facial features, especially her eyes, are brought down in size compared to her 2004 version. Moving to her hair, there's more texture in the new version and her hair movements. The bounces you see when she turns resemble real hair more closely. Last but not least, her shirt coloring is slightly different from The Incredibles. Number 4, Bob looks different. Mr. Incredible, also known as Bob, took a backseat to superheroing in the second film to really focus on that hashtag dad life. But that wasn't the only thing that changed about him. The head patriarch of the Incredibles family got an animation glow up as well. You can see here that his face looks like it's been completely reconstructed. His chin and jaw are shaped slightly differently, and there are more details to his skin, facial features, and hair. There's even a subtle shift in the shape of his body, more specifically his shoulders. Number 5, they stuck to the basics. It seems like animators really wanted to stick to what the audience knows and loves about Elastigirl, considering she has the least animation changes over everyone in the film. However, she is slightly different. It looks more realistic in terms of texture and movement. There are some tiny changes to her face shape as well. It's a little more rounded and proportioned in The Incredibles 2. Number 6. Honey, why am I animated differently? Frozone came back strong in the second Incredibles, with creators giving us some more of his cool personality. However, while his attitude remained the same, his animation did not. His facial features are much more detailed, especially if you pay close attention to his facial hair. Look at that texture and realism. His iconic blue shirt is also animated slightly differently, including the coloring. Number 7. Wouldn't want to be his babysitter. We only got glimpses of Jack Jack's powers in the first Incredibles film. Maybe a little more if you watch the extra features on the DVD release, but not nearly as many minutes as Jack Jack's powers got in the second film, which means animators needed to get his power animations just right, especially his weird red devil, or is he just a demon, form. First off, the animators decided to keep his coloring somewhere between human and demon instead of the stark red they used in the first film. His transition into the demon form is also slightly different when you look at how his facial features morph. The teeth are also in different spots and are shaped differently. Number 8, she got herself together Edna definitely took her own advice and got herself together in the second film, courtesy of the animators, of course. Like the Incredibles gang, her looks got a little upgrade as well. The animation of her hair is more realistic in terms of texture, just like many of the other characters. Her glasses are also slightly different, small and more realistic. Overall, she looks way more like her own character and way less like Shrek's Lord Farquaad. Number 9. Crisp and clean. Animators even went as far as upgrading the beginning Incredibles intro. If we look at them side by side, there are obvious changes made to support the number 2 for the second film, but there are also animation differences. The coloring is slightly different and the way the symbol moves, or should we say glides, is smoother. Number 10. She renovated. Edna's home was arguably one of the best parts of the first film. Who can forget the iconic scene of Edna showing off the secret supersuit she had created for the family, including Jack Jack? But Edna's home plays an entirely different role in the second film, arguably a more important one, which apparently resulted in some slight animation changes. While the entrance of her home is recognizable in this shot, you can tell the creators spent a lot of time shifting around the lighting. This could have been a stylistic choice by animators, or maybe they wanted to shift the mood using the lighting to better match the vibe of the film. What do you think? Number 11. Meet me at the bleachers. We looked at this side-by-side comparison when talking about Violet's changes. But now let's focus on the background of this track meet. The fields and bleachers behind Violet and Tony have been given much more detail, especially when it comes to the texture of the stadium walls and floors and even others in the audience. You can also see they added numbers next to the rows of the bleachers that weren't there in the first film. Number 12. Even the villains got a makeover. Guess you could say the Incredibles animators were truly in their villain era when working on the installment's second film. We get to see the Underminer Attack at the track meet in both the first and second films, and this side-by-side comparison is all you need to see just how much animation techniques developed in the years between the films. When looking at the Underminer himself, pay attention to the animation of his face, especially his mouth. Look how much the animators were able to improve on both the look and style of the villain. You can also see the animation changes by analyzing the city around him. The skyline is much more detailed and realistic in the second versus the first film. Number 13, a whole new character. Tony may be the Incredibles character who looks the most different between both films. He does have a much larger role in The Incredibles 2, so it makes sense creators would spend some more time animating the perfect love interest for Violet. While he's definitely still recognizable as Tony, a side-by-side of this scene shows you just how much the animation of his facial features, hair, and even body were changed.
Drive safely and goodbye. I enjoy our visits.
What are your thoughts on how the animation has changed between The Incredibles and The Incredibles 2? Do you think the creators were able to improve the animation while staying true to the characters and setting? Let us know in the comments section below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button.